Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on fluid mechanics and hydraulic machines. We are continuing our topic of static forces on surfaces. So let's begin. First of all, we will do a quick revision of our previous topics. In our previous lecture, we started with inclined plane surface submerged in a liquid. So here we took an inclined plane surface and we calculated the total pressure as well as center of pressure, and we also discussed about curved surface submerged in a liquid, where here on a curved surface the forces are not same at each section because of curved nature. So we need to have an integration of the total pressure for x direction and y directions separately. Then we discussed about buoyancy. When a body is immersed in a fluid, an upward force is exerted by the fluid on the body. This upward force is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the body, and it is called as force of buoyancy or simply buoyancy. So here the center of buoyancy is point through which the force of buoyancy is supposed to act, and here the center of buoyancy will be the center of gravity of fluid displaced. Metacenter is the point about which the body starts oscillating when the body is tilted by a small angle. So here we discussed about the metacenter and metacentric height. The distance between the center of gravity and the metacenter is known as metacentric height. Here we discussed about the analytical method for metacentric height. So this is the way we have obtained the formula for metacentric height. And now we are going to discuss about our new topic today, that is conditions of equilibrium of a floating body and submerged body. A submerged body or a floating body is said to be stable if it comes back to its original position after a slight disturbance. The relative position of COG here stands for center of gravity and COB stands for center of buoyancy. So here it determines the stability of body. So for us this will be the important part, the relative position of COG and COB. Now we will discuss about stability of submerged body. So to take an example of submerged body, we are considering a balloon kind of a thing which is in air. So as the balloon is in air, it can be considered as submerged body in a fluid. That is, the fluid here is air, that is outside. Now here, as you can see, let's focus on the first figure for understanding the arrangement here. So in this case, this balloon is filled with two materials inside, and it is filled in such a way that the heavier material is at the bottom. As you can see over here, this dark portion indicates the heavier material which is present over here. So here, why this is done? To ensure that the center of gravity is below the center of buoyancy. So this is the case, and if you see the second case over here, then it is inverted. The entire figure is inverted in such a way that the heavier material remains on the top side. So here, this will ensure that center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy. So that is a complete reversal thing over here. And in third case, it is ensured that center of gravity and center of buoyancy both are at the same point. That is, it is having a symmetry over here. So now let's see how this remains unstable or if it goes unstable. So let's focus on first case, that is a stable case over here. So in a stable case, the normal position over here is this. That is, weight is over here and force of buoyancy is over here. And this is the case where the center of buoyancy is above the center of gravity. Now here, as you can see in this second figure, that it is given a slight disturbance over here. So because of that slight disturbance, what is happening over here, that the weight is like this and the force of buoyancy is like this. So because of this disturbance that is done over here in this second figure, we can see that there is a couple generated. And if you see, because of this distance which is present over here, the direction of couple, which is generated will be in this direction, that is the anti-clockwise direction in this way. So here, as the disturbance is given in clockwise direction as it is seen in the figure, and the couple which is generated because of this disturbance is in anti-clockwise direction. So what is going to happen over here is the balloon will get back into its original position, so this will remain in stable equilibrium. So now, so this is the case of stable equilibrium of submerged body. Now we will discuss about the unstable case. So as I have already mentioned, that in second case we are having a heavier fluid at the top. So the center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy. So now let's focus on this part on the right hand side. Now we are discussing about the second case, that is unstable equilibrium. So here we are having this as W, and here we are having this as FB. So now as we can see, the similar kind of disturbance is given on the second case also. So let's have the second case of disturbance over here. So here we are having FB, and here we are having W. So there is obviously a distance between these two forces, and the couple which is being generated over here will be in clockwise direction. So here in second case, as we can see that the couple is in clockwise direction, which is in the same direction as the disturbance. So obviously this will go in unstable equilibrium. So you can clearly observe over here the difference between the stable equilibrium and unstable equilibrium, that in both cases we are having disturbance in clockwise direction, and in case of stable equilibrium the couple which is generated is in the direction of anti-clockwise here in first case, and in second case the couple which is generated is in the clockwise direction, that is the same direction as the direction of disturbance. So this will go into unstable equilibrium. So let me mention over here that this case is for stable equilibrium, and the second case over here is unstable equilibrium. Okay, and if you see the third case in which the center of buoyancy as well as center of gravity both are coinciding at a single point, then in such case we will be having a neutral equilibrium. So now let's go for a floating body. The stability of a floating body is determined from the position of meta center, that is M. In case of a floating body, the weight of the body is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced. So let's focus on the figure here, that obviously here also we are having two cases, that is stable equilibrium and unstable equilibrium. Let's focus on the figure first. So here we are having center of gravity above the center of buoyancy, and forces are acting in regular fashion, and here we have given a disturbing couple in clockwise direction. So here as you can see that the disturbance is given in such a way that the meta center M is above the G. As we can see here, the meta center M is above the G. So now let's and the second case also let's discuss together. That in second case we are going to discuss that the meta center M is below the G. So now let's focus on the forces and the couples that are generated due to this. So on the left hand side we will be discussing about the stable equilibrium, and on the right hand side we will be discussing about the unstable equilibrium. So now here let's first focus on having a meta center M above the center of gravity. So in such case, here this is the point G which is present, and the weight is acting on it as W, and then we are having a center of buoyancy, that is the new center of buoyancy over here, B1. So the couple which will be generated over here because of this distance obviously will be in the anti-clockwise direction, that is this direction over here. So it will bring back the floating body into its original position. So this will be considered as the stable equilibrium. And now let's discuss the second case in which we are having the center of gravity as above the meta center. So how this is being done? So here what we have done, as you can see, this darker portion over here of red color, that is we are having a heavier material at the top to ensure that there is a sufficient gap between COG and COB. So now we are having meta center M below the center of gravity. So let's focus on that couple. So here we are having FB, and then here, so this will be our new COB. So this is B1, and then we are having the weight force at center of gravity, point G. So here also we are having this distance, and the couple which is being generated over here will be in clockwise direction, that is over here. So as you can see here that the disturbance is in clockwise direction, as well as the couple which is being generated is also in the clockwise direction. So what will happen over here, that here this body will go into clockwise movement. So this will be a case of unstable equilibrium. Now, so as we have seen over here, this will be the case of stable and unstable equilibrium for a floating body. Now this is the end of this chapter of hydrostatic forces on surfaces. This was the last topic as steady and that is stability of floating and submerged bodies. Now we will go into our new chapter, that is kinematics of fluid. So let's begin the kinematics of fluid flow. Kinematics, it is a branch of science that deals with the motion of particles without considering forces causing the motion. So here in this case we are not going to discuss about the forces which are present in a motion of fluid particles. Now there are two methods of describing a fluid motion, so we will discuss both the methods. First is Lagrangian method. In Lagrangian methods, a single fluid particle is followed during its motion and its velocity, acceleration, density, etc. are described. So here in this case, let's say that suppose we are having a section like this, maybe a pipeline, and what we are going to discuss in such cases is let's say that this is a particular fluid particle. So the entire analysis will be based on a single fluid particle and its position as well as the properties at different location and time. So we are going to focus on the same fluid particle over the entire analysis part. That is going to be a Lagrangian method, and in Eulerian method we are having so let's erase this. So in second method, that is Eulerian method, the velocity, acceleration, pressure, density, etc. are described at a point in a flow field. So here we are not focusing on a single fluid particle, here we are focusing on a particular point or a location. So let's say we are having a pipeline like this, okay. And we are focusing on a single point. So let's say over here. So we are not focusing on a particle, but we are focusing on a point. So whatever fluid particles are passing through over here, we are going to analyze at a particular point only. Now the next is types of fluid flow. First is steady and unsteady flow. Second is uniform and non-uniform flow. Third, laminar and turbulent flow. Fourth is compressible and incompressible flow. Fifth, rotational and irrotational flow. And sixth is one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional flow. So we are going to discuss them one by one. So let's begin. So our first point of discussion is steady and unsteady flow. So here the meaning of steady flow, first we will discuss about steady flow. In case of steady flow, what is going to happen is the properties like velocity, pressure, density, etc. will not change with respect to time for a given location. To repeat this part, the steady flow, in steady flow we will have the quantities like velocity, pressure, density remains constant with respect to time for a given location. So let's have a mathematical relation of this. So let's say we are having the velocity as this del v over del t, that is the differentiation of velocity with respect to time at a given location, that is x0, y0, z0. So that is for a given point the change in velocity with respect to time at a given point should be 0. Then the next will be, let's say, pressure. So in case of pressure, the similar way we can write down and similarly we can write down for the density also. So this will be the case of steady flow, and in case of a steady unsteady flow, this quantity is so this will be not equal to 0 in case of unsteady flow. So this is the case of unsteady flow. Now the next is uniform and non-uniform flow. So here in case let's first discuss about uniform flow. In uniform flow, the velocity will not change with respect to space coordinate for a given time. To repeat this, in uniform flow, the velocity will not change with respect to space coordinate for a given time. So here again it is del V over del S for a given time will be equal to 0. So here time is constant, and with respect to a space coordinate S, the velocity does not change. So in case of non-uniform flow, does not equal to 0. That is the case of non-uniform flow. Now the next is laminar and turbulent flow. So first we will discuss about laminar flow. In case of laminar flow, the fluid particles will move in a well-defined path or streamlines. So we have seen streamlines in our school studies, that the path of fluid particle will be in such parallel well-defined paths. So the fluid particles will be moving in this way, where these flow lines or streamlines are parallel to each other. So this is known as a laminar flow, or this is also known as a viscous flow or streamline flow. So this can also be known as and in second case, the second case is of turbulent flow. So in case of turbulent flow, the fluid particles move in a zigzag path. That is, let's take an example over here. So it will be in a zigzag path like this. So there is no predefined or well-defined path over here, and they will be moving in a very random manner like this. So here, how we can differentiate between these two in mathematical form or in form of a formula. So to know whether a particular flow is laminar or turbulent, we need to calculate the Reynolds number. So the Reynolds number RE is defined as rho V d upon mu. So here rho is density, V is velocity, d is diameter, and mu is dynamic viscosity. So we will be considering a pipe flow. Whenever the flow is through the pipe, let's say d to be the diameter, here V is the velocity, through which the fluid is coming, and the fluid properties are rho and mu. So whenever RE is less than 2000, then it will be a laminar flow. And if RE is greater than 4000, then it will be a turbulent flow. And if it is between 2000 and 4000, then it is known as transition flow. That is, we are not sure whether it is laminar or turbulent. So this is the way we can check if the flow is a laminar one or a turbulent one. Now the fourth way we can define a fluid flow is compressible and incompressible flow. So in case of a compressible flow, first we will discuss incompressible flow. In case of an incompressible flow, the density of fluid will remain constant. And in case of a in case of a compressible flow, the density does not remain constant. So if we see more specifically, the incompressible flow is liquids. It is having liquids in as a fluid, and in case of a compressible flow we are having gases. So that is a clear distinction over here. Now the next is rotational and irrotational flow. So here, in case of a rotational flow, while the fluid particles are flowing along a streamline, fluid particles rotate about its own axis. In case of an irrotational flow, fluid particles do not rotate. About its own axis. So here, in case of irrotational flow, the fluid particles will not rotate about its own axis. Now our next classification. One, two, and three-dimensional flow. So first let us discuss about 1D flow. In case of one-dimensional flow, the velocity is function of only one space coordinate, that is fx. Here v is 0, that is velocity in y direction is 0, and w, that is velocity in z direction, is also 0. So the velocity is function of only one space coordinate. Now second is 2D flow. In this case, velocity is function of two space coordinates. And the third component will remain 0 in case of 2D flow. In case of a 3D flow, the velocity depends on all three space coordinates. So this is about the 1D, 2D and 3D flow. So let's first copy this in our main slide. Now let's move forward with our new theory, that is the rate of flow or discharge. So the rate of flow or discharge Q is defined as the quantity of fluid flowing per second through a section of pipe or a channel. So it will be about the quantity of fluid per second through a pipe or channel. So let's take a case here. and our section that we are interested in is this in between. So here we want to calculate the fluid quantity per second through this section. Now, as we have already seen, there are two kinds of flows. First is incompressible and second is compressible. So in case of incompressible fluid, where the density does not change, the rate of flow or discharge is expressed as volume of fluid across section per second. So let's say the two cases here. First is incompressible that we are discussing right now. So here the density does not is equal to constant, so it does not change. And here this Q is given as volume per time in this case, and the second, obviously the second category is compressible flow. Where rho does not remain constant, so it varies. So here the value of Q is given by weight upon time. So that is the case, and here let's say that the cross sectional area is capital A and average velocity of fluid which is passing through that section is V. Then the value of Q here is given by area into velocity. Q is equal to A into V. So this is the rate of flow or discharge. Now our next theory is continuity equation. So continuity equation is nothing but the presentation of mass conservation law, that is mass is neither created nor destroyed here. It is only conserved. So we will take two sections to understand this. So let's have two sections like this. There are two sections that we are going to take here. Here we are having section 1 and here we are having section 2. Like this. So let's take V1 as velocity at section 1 rho 1 is equal to density at section 1 and A1 is equal to cross sectional area at section 1, as well as we can also write down similar quantities, that is V2 rho 2 and A2, that is the similar quantities at section 2. So rate of flow at section 1 is equal to rho 1 A1 V1 and rate of flow at section 2 is going to be rho 2 A2 V2. Now based on the conservation of mass, we can say that the rate of flow at section 1 and section 2 will be same. So we can say rho 1 A1 V1 equal to rho 2 A2 V2. Now let's consider this to be an incompressible flow. Then we will have rho 1 equal to rho 2. So finally we have A1 V1 equal to A2 V2. So here we have got two equations. First is, this is for incompressible flow, and second wait. So here this is for compressible flow, and the next one is for incompressible flow. So this is all about the continuity equation. So let's copy this. So this is the end of this theory as well as end of this lecture. Thank you for watching this video.